Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, my name is Alfitulodi. Today I'm gonna explain about the poem that I have read. Title of the poem is The Wildflower Song by William Blake. Before I start my explanation, I will read the poem first. Okay. Title of the The Wildflower Song by William Blake. As I wandered the forest, the green leaves among, I heard a wildflower singing a song. I slept in the earth in the silent night. I murmured my fears and I felt delight. In the morning I went as rosy as morn to seek for a new joy. But oh, met with scorn. Okay. As you know guys, William Blake was born on 28 November 1757 and he passed on 12 August 1827. He was an English poet, painter and printmaker. Largely unrecognized during his life, Blake is now considered a seminal figure in history of poetry and visual art of the Romantic age. What he called his prophetic works were said by 20th century critic Northrop Frye to form what is in proportion to its merit the least read body of poetry in the English language. His visual artists lead 21st century critic Jonathan Jones to proclaim him far and away the greatest artist Britain has ever produced. In 2002, Blake was placed at number 38 in the BBC poll of the 100 greatest Britons. While he lived in London his entire life, except for 3 years spent in Felpham, he produced a diverse and symbolically rich collection of works, which embraced the imagination as the body of God, human existence itself. The forest brought him great happiness. Okay, next is The Wildflower Song is about Blake envisioning himself walking through the forest where the flowers would shine to him. In a sense, he is a very peaceful, happy place and he does not want to leave. He spoke all of his fears because he did not care and also no one else was there. But in the morning he left and was seeking scorn on the outside world. Another world Blake was in, a fantasy in this poem. Okay, I will mention the theme of this poem. I think the first is love. Love, which means Blake loved to be in the forest, or he mentioned about how he feels about love. And next is calm. Blake's calm, which means Blake's mind was very calm in that poem. And next is peace. Peace, which means the forest was peaceful. And next is thankfulness. Thankfulness is, I think it's Blake was thankful for the fantasy forest. And next is sorrow. Sorrow, which means wanted new joy but couldn't find it. And then is scorn. Scorn is to make the reader or the writer is to going back to the real world, or we must think about the reality of life. And the last point is sadness. Sadness is which means when we leaving the forest with the singing flowers. Okay, next I think I'm gonna show the rhyme of this poem. The Wildflower Song by William Blake is a three-stanza poem that embraced an ABAB rhyme scheme to paint a verbal portrait of a wildflower who happily excited in the midst of a forest. That flower found peace and comfort within its grounded, simple approach to life, and the goodness was so grand that even the scorn it faced could not bring it down. This wildflower then is a metaphor to reveal to the reader that the simple concept of life and strong set of good priorities are enough to overlook the ridicule of onlookers and to find happiness in life. And I will trying to show the rhythm that have been analyzed. And the first is as I wandered the forest. I think it's a 3-meter iambic. And the second line is the green leaves among. I think it's a D-meter iambic. The third line is I heard a wildflower singing. I heard a wildflower. Heard wildflower, I mean it's a D-meter iambic plus circle or zero. And the last line in the first stanza is singing a song. Singing a song, I mean it's a D-meter iambic. Okay, and the next stanza is I slept in the earth. I slept in the earth is D-meter trochaic plus 1. And the second line is in the silent night. I think it's a D-meter trochaic plus 1 too. And the third is I murmured my fears. I guess it's a D-meter trochaic plus 1. And the last line in second stanza is and I felt delight. I think it's a D-meter iambic. Okay, in the last stanza is in the first line is in the morning I went. In the morning I went is a 3-meter trochaic. And the second line is as rosy as morn. It's a D-meter trochaic. And the third line is to seek for a new joy. I think it's a D-meter iambic plus 0. Okay, and the last line in the third stanza is but oh, met with scorn. I think it's a D-meter iambic plus 0. Okay, next maybe I will explain the lexical meaning or something like that. Okay. The Wildflower Song embraced the first-person perspective within the first line, meaning that the narrator is telling the story from his own perspective. By embracing the situation as his own, the story becomes a first-hand account that has not been passed among people before it reached the reader. While this tale is fictitious, it still feels more solid since the narrator is reporting things as his own findings. What the narrator says happens within this first stanza is that he wandered the forest and heard wildflowers singing a song. This concept leaves no doubt that the story is fictional or at best metaphor of some sort, since a wildflower could not perform such a task. The word choice of the first line backs up this concept, since the narrator has chosen to label his journey as wandering, as the particular verbs comes with creativity and uncertainty. Like the wanderer does not know exactly where he is going but is keeping his eyes open. The situation is elevated into a scenario that feels more like a daydream. That daydream was clearly vibrant and strong, since there were green leaves among that area. That color's choice allows the reader to know that things were well and thriving whether this narrator had wandered. Another detail of significance is that all of the nouns are kept to very basic forms. There is no name given to the forest, and all the reader could know about the visual scenery revolves around those green leaves. The wildflower, though the capitalization of those letters grant it a higher level of significance, is not given any other description either. The reader cannot know its color specific size, only that is wild. Likewise, there is no indication about what kind of song was being delivered, even though that detail could sway the meaning of the poem. If the wildflower singing a song that would have created moroseness to saturate the wildflower songs in the place of happy atmosphere that a more upbeat song could supply. It seems the narrator is only concerned with offering the audience the most basic of details, and the concept could be hint to the poem theme. Perhaps to embrace life through enjoyment, the simple things need to be held close, and the reverse the narrator shows in handing over information reflect that concept. The choice of rhyme scheme for this poem also reflect that concept, since the ABAB approach mimics the action of skipping, as in the rhyme for the first line skip over the second to get its matching third. This concept of skipping and forest create feelings of childhood, joviality, and imagination that can be achieved by simple details like daydream and singing. And in stanza 2 is the song of the wildflower begins in the second stanza, and the concept of metaphor or daydream continued though this line, since not only can a flower not sing, but it certainly not murmur fears or experience delight. Still, these were the things the wildflower proclaims in the song. There is no time distinction furthermore between the action of telling fears and experiencing delight. The flower did not say that he expressed those fears in order to feel delight, but combined that idea with the simple, and the method of combining could hint that embracing such camaraderie and connection, just knowing that someone exists to confide in, can lead to that delight. It is process and the truth that matter, and those prospects are grounded, simple concept to make life enjoyable. And the last stanza is the flower song continue address what happened in the morning. At that point, the flower went as rosy as morn, which indicates that it felt refreshed and renewed from its time spent in night with the earth. Like sunrise delivers a fresh start of a new day, this wildflower was ready to embrace the newness in front of it that followed its silent night. The reason for this venture was simple as well, that it was seeking for a new joy. There is no indication of what would bring this wildflower that new joy, but once again, that details are treated as unnecessary. The point made is that the wildflower was rejuvenate and looking for happiness. Unfortunately for this flower, that new joy was found. Instead, it found scorn. This is likely connected to the notion that wildflower can be seen as inferior plants that are not chosen or sophisticated. They surface wherever they will, and there is little monetary value to be had from them. The kind of unroyalness and simplicity can be seen as lesser quality that could spark scorn. Even with enduring that scorn, though, the flower did not seem overly upset by it. In fact, its reaction was as simple as the rest of its tail, so much that it gave no subject for what was met with scorn. The combination of that missing subject and the casual proclamation of the simple, but creates a scenario where it seems that The flowers saw this dilemma as an unfortunate reaction, but one that was not strong enough to stop its happiness. This is evident because neither the recipient nor the provider of the corn was mentioned by name. If the corn had been enough to sway the flower's mood, more information would have been provided. As it stands, it was too significant to grant a full sentence to. Overall, this wildflower song speaks of the joy that can come with simplicity and being grounded in the things that matter. By keeping the right priorities and a good mind frame, beauty can be found in the less polished parts of life, and with the idea in mind, there is no need to let scorn hinder a positive attitude that is linked to good things. This wildflower is representation of a thriving, enduring mindset that can be achieved through those right priorities, that even with scorn there can be joy. Okay, now I'm trying to explain about with the figurative language that I know, then where the 16 is include or not include in this poem. The first is synesthesia. Synesthesia is the term used in literature when one sense is used to describe another. This is a form of simile or metaphor where you use different senses to create an interesting picture in the reader's mind. For example, an author might say that his speaker had a sweet, silky voice. In this short phrase, you are using the sense of taste, touch, and sound. This gives you visual image of a voice that is soothing and enjoyable to the ears. Why synesthesia is including in this poem? I think when the writers trying to illustrate the reader, like as I wander the forest, the green is among, and it's like a seek for new joy, or and the last point is but oh met which corn. I think it's like a he trying to illustrate the condition or situational the reader. And then next is metonymy. Metonymy is a figure of speech in which a related term is substituted for the word itself. Often the substitution is based on a material, causal, or conceptual relation between things. For example, the British monarchy is often referred to as the crown. I think personification is not including in this poem. Why? Because this poem is a first perspective or just one POV in this poem. The author not say the other POV or any other perspective, because in this poem it's a few mentioned in this poem. It's like as I wondered, I heard, I slept, I murmured, and I felt. It's not a part of personification, because personification is figure of speech in which the poet describes an abstraction, a thing, or a non-human, and that's not included. Okay, next is snake dog. Snake dog is a figure of speech in which a part of something stands for the wall. For example, I've got wheels, for I have a car, or a description of a worker as a hired hand. It is related to metonymy. I think snake dog is including of this poem too. Why? Because there's something word can give the true meaning or full meaning what the author say give to us about the real meaning in this poem. And next is euphemism. Euphemism is when an author replaces harsh words or praise with more child wants to essentially soften the blow of something that could have a more negative connotation otherwise. Euphemism is often used when writing about difficult subjects such as death, violence, or things that could generally be viewed as embarrassing. I think euphemism is not including in this poem. Why? I think there's no bad words or bad connotation in this poem, like negative words or something like that. I think there's only just corn. Maybe other people think this negative word or something like that, but I think it's not included in this poem. Maybe other people think this euphemism is included in this poem, but I'm not. I'm sorry if I still make a mistake in including or not including a figurative language in my analysis. Okay, next is simile. Simile is compares two things by saying they are like each other. The subject is like the object. Simile remind us that a comparison is being made, which sometimes makes them easier to understand the follow. I think simile is not including in this poem. Why? Because this poem not compare like two things or some things that can be compared, because this poem is like a journey or feel people how to they express, not there's nothing explain are comparing in this poem. And next is metaphor. Metaphor is compares two things directly without using like or as the subject is the objects. Metaphors are more direct than similes, which can make them seem stronger or more surprising. Example, the sunrise this morning was an ocean of honey dusted with powdered sugar. I think metaphor is not including two in this poem because they look like the metaphor is similar like simile. They like comparing in some object and the other object. This poem is not comparing the object. And next is onomatopoeia. Now, onomatopoeia is a figure of speech in which the sound of a word imitates its sense. For example, cuckoo, hiss, or bass in piano. Describe the boom of the tingling strings as his mother played the piano, mimicking the volume and resonance of the sounds boom, as well as the fine, high-pitched vibration of the string that produce. I think onomatopoeia is including in this poem because this poem is mentioned. I heard a wildflower singing a song. It's like singing a song is like a sound or expression wildflower in the forest. And next is allusion. Allusion is a brief, intentional reference to a historical, mythic, or literary person, place, event, or movement. I think allusion is included in this poem. Why? Because that is like a reference in the forest and see the wildflower and the other plants in the forest. And next is symbolism. Symbolism is a symbol is a person, object, place, event, or action that suggests more than its literal meaning. And I think it is including too. It's like a similar in allusion. Why? Because the poem is explain about people walk in or have a journey in the forest and see a wildflower or something like that, and he slept in the silent night, and it's like give more symbolism, and when in the morning, like as rosy as morn or something like that. And next is oxymoron. Oxymoron is a figure of speech that brings together contradictory words for a fact, such as jumbo shrimp and deafening silence. I think it's not included in this poem. Why? Because there's no contradictive meaning in this poem, and this poem is always have a, I don't know what to say, allure. In this poem is always have a connection in this, but even in stanza by stanza or line by line. And next is paradox. Paradox is as a figure of speech. It is a seemingly self-contradictory phrase or concept that illuminates a truth. I think paradox is part of this poem. Why? Because this poem is telling about the author trying to get happiness when he wake up in the morning, but the fact is not like that. The fact gives what is self-contradictory in the morning. He also get the otherwise from happiness that I say that he get a scorn. Next is juxtaposition. Juxtaposition is brings together disparate ideas, characters, description, place, and more. This is done in order to develop a comparison between the two and therefore further a specific mood, tone, attitude, or atmosphere. I think juxtaposition is included in this poem. Why? Because there are any character, place, effort of time, or something like that, and it can help the reader to make the reader have a similar atmosphere in this poem and feel a good vibe too about when he read this poem. Okay, next is antithesis. Antithesis is contrasting or combining two terms, phrase or clause with opposite meanings. And I think antithesis is included in this poem, but I'm not sure, because I think it can be included in this poem is because there's mention in this poem is I murmured my fears and I felt delight. I think it's two terms, phrase or clause with opposite meanings. It's like a antithesis, but I'm not sure. I've been through in this part. Okay, next is lithos. Lithos is a deliberate understatement for a fact, the opposite of hyperbole. For example, a good idea may be described as not half bad, or difficult task considered no small feat. I think lithos is not part of Wildflower song poem. Why? Because there's no hyperbole meaning in this poem, and it not then I not really found a hyperbole meaning in this poem. Okay, and the last point is irony. Irony is a literary technique that used discordance
incongruity or a native speaker to say something other than a poem literal meaning. I think it is not including in this poem too. Why? Because there's not fake meaning or not synchronized meaning in this poem. This meaning is always have a connection in line by line or meaning by meaning. Okay, thank you. That's all from me. Thank you very much and see you on the next video. Bye.